Hi friends, my name's host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. In this video I'm going to fact check and debunk and or skeptify or whatever the Michael Reel case of Roan Mountain. I watched this YouTuber called Mr. B. Allen who tells scary campfire stories basically. And in one of his videos I noticed that he had been asked by the family to excise his section on this story. So I watched it on another channel. And then I got curious about it because it's an interesting story and I started to I googled it and I came up with this Reddit thread, and I saw that this is how people typically deal with this sort of question. Now, before I begin, I will do my own nutshell of the story. Okay, so essentially, Michael Reel and his mother were camping in the Roan Mountain in North Carolina, and he said to his mother, "I'm going to go fill these containers with water at the spigot over there." She said, "Okay." He walked off. He was 8 years old, and he just disappeared. She alerted the authorities. A large search was launched. That search went on for a full 7 days. And on the seventh day, despite the fact that there were thunderstorms on several of the nights during this week, he was found in fine condition with the exception of a few cuts and scrapes, and with clean looking hair. And he was only found a mile and a half away from where he had originally been lost, and people couldn't explain this because they had searched that area extensively over the course of the week. But there are other sort of mysterious factors in it, and these mysterious factors will make it a good campfire story, and those are the ones that people have the big exception with. So specifically, the questions here that are mysterious from the perspective of somebody from somebody who's interested in the story are: could he have survived out in the wilderness for this entire week by himself, an 8-year-old boy, eating berries and stuff, in conditions that the weather got very cold at night and there were thunderstorms on a few of the nights? And so that's the initial discussion here on the Reddit thread. Well, is it cold enough? Was it cold enough to really kill him? Could he be okay after that? And then you see here, things like this do happen. A lot of people at the time, 4.7 billion people at the time, Murphy's Law, or in ancient times people would say Murphy's Law. Okay, so it's just sort of again, Occam's razor, random shit happens. But and this editor girl, bizarre, below freezing weather, no mystery here, and she quotes from a couple of articles from the time, 1983. That support the notion that there's nothing mysterious here, including the UPI article and the New York Times article, okay? That is simply he wandered away, he survived by eating berries and wild apples, and that he had told searchers he had seen helicopters in a truck but was afraid to approach them. He was still confused and disoriented when found. She includes here that thunderstorms rocked the mountain and the temperatures dropped into the 40s, but that's survivable, presumably, right? 8-year-old boy. And then this guy references another factor that I haven't mentioned yet in the story, that there were military personnel dispatched to search for this boy. First, paratroopers, and then later, Green Berets, which some people find odd because typically the military is not involved in searches, right? This person, who's a skeptic type, right? Of course it's aliens. How does nobody see that? Being just kind of a douche, you know? And we see here, this one sounds like an urban legend based on a real missing persons case. And then most importantly, what I'm going to get to here is down here. David Plott has totally fabricated the involvement of special forces. He has a history of a few easily disproved, unsupported fabrications like that. It's a total bummer. Okay, so this is what made me want to actually research it and find out what the truth is. So you've got these people who have clearly entrenched agendas as to what to think about this thing, and it seems like almost none of them really have evaluated the evidence in any meaningful way that would justify these conclusions. If you do look it up, you read here, the day, New London, Connecticut, 1983, Sunday, July 10th, 1983. It confirms much of what we've already known. But it also tells us this. Michael was taken briefly to Roan Mountain State Park where he was reunited with his mother. He was then taken to Carter County Hospital. He was listed in satisfactory condition, and doctors said he'd be kept overnight and released on Sunday. Carter County Sheriff William Crumley says he appears to be in excellent shape. He should not have any physical long-term effects from this, Dr. Dennis Luong said after examining the boy. He should be running around and playing and acting normal in 2 or 3 days. It's unbelievable the shape he's in for what he's been through. I think it's amazing he survived this ordeal. Okay, this is what the doctor says. Now, let's see what the actual rescuers who met the kid said. He walked right into us, said Jimmy Doyle, one of the men who found him about 30 feet into the woods off of a field. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, Doyle said. He was just standing there. I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Michael." I said, "Michael who?" And he said, "Michael Real." Doyle said Michael appeared to be clean and his hair pretty well groomed, but his shirt was in rags and his pants looked like he had been wallowing in the mud. I might be able to find another article that had more details about the hair being well groomed, but this is probably the source of that claim that's made in these videos about this, that he had his hair washed and combed. That's probably an exaggeration of this. That's probably where that notion came from. So if you want to be skeptical, you'd say, okay, the people who want to make this into a magical thing have exaggerated this bit of actual reality, his hair pretty well groomed, into his hair was cleaned and combed. Fine, okay. Note, his shirt was in rags and his pants looked like he'd been wallowing in the mud. Then Mrs. Real says, "I'm just in shock because they found him." Mrs. Real said at the hospital, "He told me he was going to get some water. The next thing I knew, he was lost. I figured he'd be hurt pretty bad before they found him. I knew they would find him, but I thought he would be in shock or something." Okay, so Mom didn't expect to get him back fine. Rescue squad member said the boy talked of having spent time watching television with his grandfather. Just like it says, right? He told them about being in a cabin with his grandfather watching television. But they believed he had hallucinated. Then in the next sentence, doctors said he was alert and oriented by the time he reached the hospital. So he went from hallucinating to alert and oriented. And yet, but because of the boy's confusion, authorities hadn't been able to learn how he had spent the past 8 days. He told them how he had spent the past 8 days. They didn't believe him. They confirmed he was alert and properly oriented and continued to attribute what he was telling them to his confusion. That's pretty clear is what's going on here, you know, that it was just nobody believed him, and that's it. Crumley and Forest Service Ranger Jerry Wilson said they had been skeptical about the boy's whereabouts and his comment about his grandfather, but they said doctors convinced them there was nothing suspicious about Michael's disappearance, and said tests showed he hadn't eaten for several days. The doctor assures us that it's possible for an 8-year-old boy to stay out in the woods for a week in thunderstorms in a t-shirt and pants by himself in 40-degree night weather and be in as good shape as he is, Crumley said. Oh, is that the same doctor who said over here, it's unbelievable the shape he's in for what he's been through? I think it's amazing that he survived the ordeal. So, I mean, obviously, you've got two different agendas here competing narratively against each other, even within this story. As for Michael's remark about his grandfather, Crumley said he's trying to block all this out of his mind and relate it to something familiar. Okay, that has nothing, I mean, that's just your way of dismissing it. That's not an explanation, an answer, an articulation of anything. Mike Sellers, chief deputy of Carter County, said the boy told him he had rolled up in a little tight ball and slept under the trees and had eaten 3 apples and berries during the ordeal. So he tells this guy, apparently, that's what Mike Sellers says anyway. All right, so let's look at one more article before we put this story to bed a bit. And it's this one here. So you can see right here, boy missing a week in mountain area back with family. So did David, whatever his name is, God damn it, David, whatever his name is, Pilatus or whatever. No. Did he really fabricate this? Did he really fabricate it? Let's find out. Michael Reel 8, missing. Well, I don't know how well you can see that. It's kind of small, but I can read it. Michael Reel 8, missing for a week on the inhospitable slopes of 6,280-foot Mount Roan, was found unharmed Saturday. He was suffering from nothing more than serious than some cuts and a possible cold. The boy was found 7 days to the hour after he wandered away from the family's campsite in the wilderness area. The boy, tanned and cheerful, was taken to Carter County Memorial Hospital, about 25 miles away, where he was found to be in good shape. "I'm numb," said the mother. "He just looked at me as if to say, 'Hello, how are you?' He didn't act a bit thrilled to see me." I told him, "I guess you've turned into a little man, haven't you?" This is 1983 for you. That was back when I was a little man. I was 12 years old in 1983. Taylor Bailey, one of the men who found the boy, said Michael I indicated he had spent part of the week in a deserted cabin that was not searched by Army trackers, Green Berets, and hundreds of others who joined in the hunt. So that asshole on Reddit is accusing this author of making shit up that's clearly not made up. He sourced it right here from this article. Bailey said rescuers found the child about 2.5 miles from the campsite. The other article said 1.5 miles, where he disappeared last Saturday. Let's split the difference, call it 2 miles. After nights of cold temperature and heavy rain, the boy's rescue was called greater than a miracle. Because, this is interesting, there have been instances of people being lost without a trace in the area. Michael's white tennis shoes had turned brown, his jeans were black, and a Superman t-shirt he was wearing had been torn. Oh look, finally it's coming out. I've been waiting for these movies. After Porky's 1, I was like, please, Porky's 2, we need to see you. You can't see them though, so let me make this a little wider. Porky's 2, you've got to fill my life with enjoyment and laughter. After that, I'm going to go see Stroker Ace because Burt Reynolds is badass. And who's the best James Bond of all time? Why, obviously, it's Roger Moore and Octopussy. At the same time, there's some big movies coming out here at Dickinson Theaters. At the same time, Superman 3 with Christopher Reeve and Richard Pryor. Look, Richard Pryor is hilariously being carried by Superman 3, you can see. All right, well, that's a little off topic. But what's the takeaway from all of this? The takeaway from this is it's not clear what happened to this boy, but he was missing in the woods an unusually long amount of time to have survived, given those conditions, given what he had on him, and what he was wearing and stuff. I wouldn't survive that long in the wilderness with 40-degree temperatures with it raining. I would die of hypothermia for sure. But maybe, it's like, so is that enough to say this is something paranormal or weird or magical? No. But when you factor in some other things, like there was a large search put out from him and it was only found 2 miles from where he was lost. And they had searched this area day after day after day for 7 straight days. That's weird. The fact that they include the Green Berets and the Army, 2 different, they're both Army, but, they're 2 different parts of the Army, I guess. The regular Army, and then the Green Beret is like the special Army, right? So, the fact that they include both of these components, that's odd, although it is near Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and so, Good Samaritans, the U.S. military, not really got a whole hell of a lot going on in 83, It seems plausible that they would do that, so not shocking. But as far as the boy telling them the story of the cabin and spending time with the grandfather, it seems to me, in my reading of that interpretation, and this is just an interpretation, okay, it's not anything factual here, is that the boy was consistent in his story and nobody believed him. That's what it sounded like to me, So is this paranormal? Is this magical? Is there a portal? Is there aliens? Is there a ghost cabin? I don't know. I mean, the thing is, those things aren't answers to things, right? Paranormal is when you don't have an answer to something. If you had an answer to something, then it would be normal. Anyway, that's the fact check on that matter. No, it's not complete bullshit that it's mysterious and weird and spooky and supernaturally. And no, that author didn't make that shit up. And it's weird. And who knows what happened. I think it's a fun story, though.
Me too.